guest relationships too often start and end in between hitting the record button. And that's the mistake.
Your podcast should be your most powerful business development tool, a trust and authority builder, and your content creation engine. Let's help your podcast help your business with the Story Trust Media Podcast. Here's your host, John Gehring.
Hey, podcaster, quick question for you. Are you making the most of every single guest you have on the show? My guess is probably not. And here's what I mean. You book a guest for your show, and you're thinking, great, this guest is going to provide a lot of knowledge about this particular topic. I'll have them on, we'll record a great conversation, we'll stop recording, we'll promise to stay in touch, we'll part ways. I may send them the link to the episode once I'm done with it, once it's released, and then we'll never talk again. But at least they made a great episode, right? Maybe. But man, you just missed an opportunity for one of your best podcast ambassadors. Yes, one of those people that can really help your podcast grow that you didn't take full advantage of. Podcast host guest relationships too often start and end in between hitting the record button. And that's the mistake. Here are 5 ways to maximize your podcast guests. Make the most of them. Take full advantage of them. And before you complain and say, John, my mom taught me not to take advantage of people. This is the kind of taking advantage of people that's okay to do, all right? And guess what? None of these 5 things have to do with having a good conversation. That's a given. Recording great content, that's a given. You're going to do that with your guest anyway. But implementing these 5 things could transform your podcast to a new level just by leveraging the guests that you have on. Number 1 is easy, but I'm going to give you a little extra advice on number 1 because too often podcasters get it wrong. Number 1 is have your guest share the show. And we all do this, right? And we all come into podcast guesting opportunities with good intentions. Oh, yeah, of course I'll help promote the show. It's a win-win, right? The podcast gets promoted and the guest gets to look good because, hey, I was on a podcast. One of my favorite things to do is promote the podcast that I've been on. But the problem is, too often when I'm on a podcast, I am not even sent the link to the podcast when it is released. And even if I am, I get some random link to a Spotify show that looks fine, but doesn't really look promotable to me. Doesn't really look like, ooh, I want to post that. And especially if you're having guests on who have really high quality social media followings and they care about what they post and they don't just want to post links. Because remember, you're posting links, that's actually triggering to the algorithm on many of these platforms that you're actually trying to send your audience away from the platform. And the algorithm punishes that because they don't want you to send your audience away from the platform that your audience is scrolling through, right? So posting links usually isn't a good idea. So when all I get is links, I think, I'm sorry, I'm not really going to post that. Or I get some stupid form letter of, hey, thank you for being on the podcast. Your episode just released. And the crazy thing is, that's usually the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, and I feel like it happens more often than not, I'm not even sent the link to the episode that I was on, and I have to go dig it out, which sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. So number 1 is get your guests to share the show, and that's not by just sending them the Spotify link. Create supplemental content out of that. At the very least, send them the graphic so that they can post that and write something about it. Even write them maybe a sample post that they can put out there and promote. Say, no pressure, you don't have to use this terminology. I just figured I'd make it easier for you to share. Why that's so important to make sure that the guests share your show as they promised to do, make sure that they follow through on that promise, is because that amplifies your audience. In fact, if you have the same following as your guest, if your guest has the same following as you, maybe they even have a little bit more, it at least doubles the amount of eyeballs on your show. And that can add up pretty quickly, especially if your guest shares it across all their platforms, maybe even in their email newsletter. Don't be afraid to ask your guests to share. But when you do, get them the content that they need and follow up with them diligently to get the content that they need to make them look good too, because that's the only way they're actually going to follow through and share it. So, number one, get them to share. That's the simplest one, yet it's one that I see most podcasters falling short on. Number two on the maximize your guest checklist is collab. Why not collab on a post? A lot of the social media platforms have options that you can do this. Now, even YouTube allows you to collab on videos that you put out there. Get in front of their audience. See if maybe they'll even re-air your show, your interview with them on their own podcast. Because oftentimes the guests that we have on have podcasts themselves. Collab, there are so many different ways to collab. It just takes a little bit of ingenuity. And again, don't be afraid to ask. You're providing them value by having them on your show, lending them your audience. What they can do in return for you to lend you their audience by sharing and potentially collabing through, at the very least, a post, at the very least, a collaborated YouTube video that's on both of your channels, or potentially even re-airing your podcast interview with them on their podcast, in their newsletter, or through some other platform. Better yet, all of the above. So again, share and collab. Those are the first two on the checklist. Number three, ask them to leave a review. Reviews are so important. Apple Podcasts ranks podcasts based on reviews, Spotify based on ratings. That's such an important piece of how your podcast shows up organically. Yet we don't take advantage of the people who we know will leave reviews if we just ask them to, if we provide them clear instructions. We throw out there at the end of each episode, hey, review this if you liked it. But we don't take advantage of the guests. In fact, not every guest is probably going to review. Let's be real. Some of them guest on your show and then just ghost you. That's just the reality of content creation and podcasting. But even if just half of them do, which is kind of low, I think it would be more than half if you asked and made it easy for them by providing them a direct link. But even if half of them do, if you have a weekly podcast with a guest over the course of a year, that's 25 reviews. That's huge. It's a big leg up. And guess what? It also builds momentum. When your audience sees reviews, they're more likely to leave a review. When they see 25-star reviews, they're more likely to leave one instead of be the first or second person to write a review. So capture the low-hanging fruit. Ask your guests to leave a review, and more importantly, make it as easy for them to do as possible. And they should follow through. So again, share, collab, and review. Those are the first three on our checklist to maximize your guest. Number four, how about a guest swap? How many podcast guesting opportunities have you had? Do they have a podcast? Might they be willing to have you on as an expert? There you go. Again, it's another opportunity to promote your show. It's another opportunity to practice your podcasting by guesting. Being on the other side of the mic certainly helps. You become a more effective podcaster. And it builds your audience and allows you to have more content to share with your audience. It continues to fuel your content creation machine. So it's worth asking, hey, I know you have a podcast too. Would you be willing to have me on as a guest? Would I be a good fit for your audience? Chances are you're in the same field likely, right? If you're collaborating on content, that they should return the offer. And oftentimes they do. Now, in some cases, they don't for whatever reason. Maybe their podcast is way bigger and has guests booked out for months or years. And it's okay. You're not going to get on every show, but it's certainly worth asking. If you don't, it's a potential missed opportunity. And then number five is something that I rarely see happen in the podcasting world. And that is staying in touch. Just simply staying in touch. Making a note for yourself to follow up with this person every couple months. Check in, see how they're doing. Comment on their posts. Review their podcast. Sign up for their newsletter. Ask if there are ways that you can benefit one another. See, the beauty of a podcast discussion is that it doesn't have to end when you stop the recording. The beauty of it is that you've now created a friend. You've now created a real contact who you've built trust with through the power of creating content together. And now, when opportunities come up, you could be top of mind, but only if you stay in touch with them. And you could also have opportunities of ways that you can provide value to them. Podcasting is one of the best forms of networking. Too many podcasters don't take advantage of it and just allow their guests to slip. And 3 years later, they don't even recognize you because they're on 100 podcasts a year. They don't recognize yours from 3 years ago. And it's too late. So stay in touch. So, again, here's your checklist. Are you making the most out of your guests? My guess is probably not. Making it easy for them to share and following through to make sure that they do by providing them with the content that they need to make them look good and make them want to share. Number two, collabing on posts, collabing on YouTube videos, maybe even getting them to repost your content and your podcast conversation on their show or their networks. Number three, ask for a review. It's low hanging fruit. Most guests will do it. Number four, potentially a guest swap. If they have a podcast, you could also guest on. And number five, stay in touch, check in, comment on their posts, nurture the relationship that you've built through podcasting. Some of the best relationships professionally that I have in my life are because I either guested on somebody's podcast or they guested on one of mine. And the power of business is relationships. That's everything in business. It's really one of the best ways to grow your business. So why wouldn't you take full advantage of your guests to grow your podcast, grow your business? I hope this helped you today, and I hope you now have some actionable insights. Maybe you're thinking, John, this was, why haven't I thought of this before? That's what I thought. I thought for me, it was reviews. Like, why haven't I asked my guests to leave reviews? It's silly, right? It's like low hanging fruit. So there you go. Hopefully that helps you today. And let me know if I missed anything. Any other ways you try to take full advantage of your guests in the best possible way? Try to maximize what you get out of each guest in each episode. Let me know. Would love to hear from you.
Thanks for checking out the Story Trust Media podcast. Learn more about what Story Trust Media can do for your business and book a free consultation at storytrust.media.